Welcome back to the Mormon News Roundup. It's August 4th, 2024. This is episode 126, and I'm your host, Steve Ace. That's talent on loan from Kolob. We got a lot of announcements here. BYU is getting a new medical school, and that's big news. We got a swinging Mormon wives show, and that's really controversial. You know, plastic surgery is big in Utah. We're going to cover some topics there. We got some temple updates here. Russell M. Nelson's birthday is coming up. We're going to tell you how that's going to be celebrated. Caffeine has been allowed at BYU Idaho for the first time. This is big news. And finally, we're going to talk a lot about the Olympics. I'd like to welcome onto my program my fabulous co-host, Coach. Coach, how you doing?
Hey, buddy, I'm good. How's it going?
Great to be here. Let's jump right in on the news here and see what we got. Answers to your questions about the LDS Church's plans for a BYU Medical School. Here's what you need to know about the future medical school that will open on the Provo campus, including how it will work with the honor code and why it won't include a hospital. Wait a minute, how do you have a medical school without a hospital? That's what I'm wondering about here. This is very interesting stuff. How many medical schools are there in Utah? Well, there's 3 so far. There's one at the University of Utah, and then there's a couple of private schools. And the real question here is, when is this thing going to be open? According to Shane Reese, a planning team is being established to work on this initiative, and more information will be available. So we don't have all of the information now here, but the American Association of Medical Colleges reports that 387 students with BYU undergraduate degrees applied to a medical school in the last year. So you could be quite big here. This is big news here. You know, BYU has never had a medical school, and it looks like they're queuing up for one. What do you think about this?
You know, I think it's cool. Just depends on how they end up running it. I think for most of the run-of-the-mill medical stuff, it's going to be totally fine. But if they get into like gender care and stuff like that, that's probably where it's going to get a little dicey for them.
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal as far as the gender care is concerned. I'm very interested to see how they handle not only gender care, but also reproductive rights, including abortion, including things along those lines. What about gender confirmation surgeries? Because we know that the church is not a big fan of those things. That's going to be very controversial. So I'm going to be very interested to see that. I did see a couple of memes that went along with this. Coach, you can now follow the prophet and follow the prophet's career.
That's right. Russell M. Nelson, as we know, was a surgeon, so you can follow in his footsteps.
A world-renowned surgeon on the cutting edge of everything, and yet he doesn't know about genetics. That's a real head-scratcher. Doesn't believe in evolution. I do wonder how that all works, but I guess this isn't the time for that. What about some other? I got a couple of other tweets here. Let's get some reactions here. How is the school going to get accredited when it discriminates against an entire group of people and puts religious beliefs over scientific facts? No offense, you know, I would not want to use a BYU trained doctor if I graduated from there. And that's literally what my wife said too. She says, how's this thing going to be accredited if you can't provide any gender confirmation surgeries? Even BYU had a problem with trans students, you know, and going to the speech pathology of getting their voices, getting their voices to sound like what they want them to. They wouldn't allow that to happen. Even up until a couple of years ago, they didn't even allow women who were BYU professors to have access to birth control only under specific circumstances. BYU is an incredibly regressive organization. How is all this going to get working as far as accreditation and things like that? Because these medical schools, they don't want to play games with BYU stopping abortion care and things like that. This could be really dicey.
It could, and that might be the reason why they're not doing a hospital. You know, that might be smart because they know they'd run into problems.
Could be right about that. A couple of other takes from the internet here. From Kolob and Peace, which is actually one of my favorite Twitter accounts. He says, I prophesy that this is going to be the focus of some gnarly controversies in the next 5 years. And this is the problem here. Major focus of this health center is going to be on international health issues affecting members of the LDS Church, and plans for the medical school are underway as specific target dates will be announced as they are set. But that's the problem here. There's going to be a lot of controversies associated with this. That's the reason that the church has never waded into this to begin with, is because, you know, the church is not exactly great bedfellows when it comes to wedding faith and science together. Anytime those two things come in conflict, the church comes down on the side of faith each and every time. And that's a problem for some of these accreditation bodies. And like the other tweet said, you know, do you want a doctor who's gone through a program that doesn't give you the complete understanding of what it is that you're supposed to be doing, whether it's gender affirming care, whether it's access to abortion or anything else? I mean, we've even seen in BYU Idaho in some of the biology classes last year that professors redacted the
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, of the textbooks because it was considered immodest. I mean, there's just a host of problems with this. I don't know how it's all going to work.
Yeah, I think that one tweet earlier that said he wouldn't want to go to a doctor who was trained at BYU. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I think if you're going for run-of-the-mill medical stuff, you're going to be fine with a BYU doctor. I think where you're going to run into trouble is when we, like you mentioned, when you start getting into reproductive sort of things or gender affirming care, that's when the controversies are going to start. And I think that tweet about controversies in 5 years is it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, it's a big deal as far as will these doctors be trained to provide the reproductive services, especially to women. That is the full template of
Hmm.
abortive services that are needed for not only the life of the mother, but purely elective abortions. Will these doctors be trained to do that? Will they be trained for gender confirmation surgeries? Will there be the chill, the wet blanket that's put over the top of so
Hmm.
much of BYU? And also a lot of gay issues as well. I mean, how will
Right.
these doctors be taught to counsel with gay people who are having, I don't know, any type of issue, psychological or other issues? How is this all going to work? Because that's the problem when science and faith get together. It's going to be very, very difficult. So I do wonder what's going to happen. Now you can find Culch on you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, and you can find the
Hmm.
Mormon News Roundup too. Let us know your comments about BYU's new School of Medicine because we're very interested to know that. Now we're hopping right into the next article here, Culch. Look at this. The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives chronicling the Swinging Sex Candles, a new Hulu series. Very controversial stuff here. What do you think about this new series here?
You know what? I'm going to be watching. I've always been really interested in the whole Draper, sort of thing, the swingers and all that stuff. And so to see them in action and to really see what's going on, it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, the Draper moms. What is that anyway? I've seen that. What is a Draper mom? I don't even understand that.
I don't know. It's almost like a stereotype within a stereotype. They're these moms who are open to getting with other people's husbands, I suppose. And they do TikToks that are, not the type of TikToks you would see from Mormon women. So Draper women kind of have a reputation.
I guess I just don't run in those circles. Now, I had Jana Reese on the program about 6 months ago, and she actually wrote a piece in the Religion News Service about this, which actually kind of got her goat a lot and in a fun way. And it's because this series is capitalizing on something that is so exceptionally rare. The amount of women in the church who are swingers is like infinitesimally small. I mean, it is a very small handful of people. And this is, going to be giving a stereotype to people that it's going to be like a feeding frenzy. They're going to hone
Hmm.
in on this. And I do have the trailer here for you to watch here, Culch. I mean, this is going to be
Excellent.
in.
I'm the one you've been dreaming of. I've got everything you could ever want. Try me and you see, I'll bring you to your knees. Baby, you're gonna believe.
I'm getting very uncomfortable here. Is that a problem here?
I don't know, man. It's gonna be a good series. Honestly, this reminds me of like the Taylor Frankie TikToks.
Oh, absolutely. She's one of the people in there. She's like the third or the fourth person in there. She's in there.
Oh,
She
is
was a
she?
yeah. She's right there in the middle there. Actually, let's watch it
Oh,
one more
okay.
time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Show it
The most
again.
famous person. She's probably the most famous person on this series. I think they kind of formed it around her. Watch, I believe she's the third. Yeah, there she
There
is.
she is.
Taylor.
There she is.
Yep.
Is she married right now? Because she got divorced, right?
I can't remember. She threw a chair at her husband, got arrested. I think they're not
I
together
think that was
anymore.
her boyfriend at the time, which
Was
may
it?
be a husband now. I'm not sure.
If my wife walks in while we're watching this, I could have a serious problem on my hands. So we
Same, same. My wife's probably gonna watch that. She'll enjoy it. She's
Oh,
never
really?
Mormon, but she might like that.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Well, I'm sure it's going to be an absolutely smash hit. I'm sure it's going to get a lot of views, just like Heather Gray on when she was on the reality show too. What is it? The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake.
That
My wife loves that show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very popular. Reality TV is absolutely huge, and people like to watch the Mormon swingers and see them wrestle between. Hey, I'm adherent to a faith, even though maybe I don't live every
Hmm.
single one of the precepts of it. I'm kind of, I don't necessarily am the most devoted person. Most of these people are not married in the temple, and they don't take it maybe super seriously, but they
Hmm.
still want to see behind the curtain and see people in these salacious situations with the swinging stuff here and the supposed
Yeah.
purity culture. When all this gets together together. It just, people really want to watch this stuff. I'm sure it's going to get a ton of views. Any last thoughts on this one?
Did you see Jacob Hansen's reaction to this on Twitter? He was
No.
basically saying like excommunications are coming, or like these are apostate. So he was already calling out all the women on it without even seeing any of it.
Oh my goodness. So that doesn't surprise me in the slightest here, because he's definitely a gatekeeper for other people's behaviors and actions. He thinks that he's supposed to be the one in charge of that. And that's what a lot of people want to tune in for too. So this is the beauty of this show, is that you get the conservatives who are going to come in and want to watch it in order to try to take these people down and show all their supposedly evil practices and talk about the immorality and use the righteous priesthood indignation. And then you're going to have people maybe like your wife who don't really know much about it, but enjoy the drama that goes with it. And
Exactly.
You know, it's bubble gum. You know, you work a hard day at work, you come home, you want something mindless. I mean, it doesn't get much more mindless than this.
The Mormon swingers. Yeah, that's mindless.
Yeah, for sure. This flows right in because, you know, these people who are on these programs, I don't know for a certainty, but it seems like a lot of them may have, let's just say they take beauty very seriously. And this really came out here too. ABC4.com just said a perfect saint. Wealthy religious Latter-day Saints are more likely to get plastic surgery, study finds. Is there any correlation between these particular shows that we're seeing and the plastic surgery? It says that 1,300 church members have completed an online survey and 14% of them reported cosmetic surgery. I can't believe that. 14% of Latter-day Saints have plastic surgery. That was a lot more than I thought. And this isn't some Reddit post here. This is from a professor of human development at Brigham Young University. Why are so many Latter-day Saints going under the knife here, Culch?
That's a great question, man. I don't know why they're going under the knife. It may be in Mormonism, you strive for perfection, right? Spiritually. And maybe that pours over into physically. And it could just be that these women have husbands who want a particular type of wife. And in order to get that, they shell out some money for some plastic surgery. I've actually heard that Utah has a really high number of plastic surgeons.
It's second in the nation as far as per capita plastic surgeons per capita. It's only behind, I believe Miami is first, then Utah, and then like Los Angeles. So yeah, that per capita is super, super high. And a lot of people suppose that it is because of the LDS purity culture. Just like we saw on these Mormon swinging wives, all of these people are very attractive. They're generally very, very fit. You know,
they've got a look.
Yeah, they've got a look, they've got the tan, they've got the outfits, whatever it is that they need. Their appearance is very important to them. That bleeds over into other members who, even though they're not necessarily kind of swingers, there's a purity culture that comes along with presenting a perfected outside appearance. And that's especially acute for women. And that's why you see so many of these Mormon trad wives out there too, that are beauty queens and size 2s. And there's a lot of pressure, especially on women, that are put on women to be in Mormonism, to be the trophy wife, to be the perfect 10. And that's why, well, if you have a lot of money and, you know, it's really hard to do these things naturally, well, we're going to go to the unnatural. And I'm not trying to shame anyone for...
No, it's fine if they do it.
I'm not trying to shame anybody. How you approach these things is certainly a personal matter. I'm not trying to advocate for any position, but I do wonder if there's harm that's put to people. If you have a shame culture of saying that you have to be the perfect look and you have to be a beautiful wife, these stake presidents and general authorities, a lot of times when you look at the pictures that they put for when they're called into these positions, the wives, they got the hair extensions and they got the whole thing, and they have to keep up this persona. Is that harmful to people? And does it cause them to do unnecessary surgeries? And some of these can be dangerous. It's not just, I mean, there's knives, there's all kinds of things that can be very harmful behind all of this.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. There's a lot more than I figured there would be, according to that survey. But people at the end of the day are going to make their own decisions. Some might be influenced by their husbands or family members, and some just may want to do it so that they feel better about themselves. And, you know, I'm okay with it if that's what they want to do.
I have no problem with anybody whatsoever doing anything as far, I mean, you're a consenting adult. You can do whatever it is that you want with yourself. I worry if there's pressure, undue pressure that is put on people. That's where I start to get concerned about it. You know, by the way, those of you out there on Apple Podcasts, the first review that I ever got from the Mormon News Roundup like 2 years ago, we were actually talking about a similar issue. And it literally said, the host tells women what to do with their bodies. And I was like, I've never said that in my life. So that's not what I'm saying. Let me know in the comment section. Those of you out there in the comment section, let me know if I'm getting this wrong, but I do want to know about it. And we release new episodes of the Mormon News Roundup every Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you come on over to YouTube at that time, you can interact with us in the live chat. Now, the temples are always big here, Colts. Did you see this one from the London temple? Was it, you know, they got a lot of flooding that's going on out there? You see that?
No, I hadn't seen this yet. This is crazy.
Yeah, temples are big here, and they're trying to save the temple here. I do wonder, kind of like the Mormon Helping Hands, how effective this actually is. You could just get a hose out there, and
Don't they have any younger members over in England? They couldn't call Nemo to come.
well, I think that's a perfect example of how the temple workers are usually very, very old. Nemo, in particular, he was a temple worker for his mission, but usually temple workers are quite old.
Yeah, I was going to say these people all have a look, and it is a look over 70.
The temple is flooded, and the most amazing thing here, also here, we got another temple update for you. This is a Philippines update here. Let me see if I can get this playing for you.
This looks like Beverly Hills back here. Right across the street, though, the trenches. The trenches. Just asked them, what is this? He told me it's a church, bro. Like, how you gonna put this crazy church next to the dang trenches, though? Look what's across the street. People gotta stay back here.
Churches took half the money that they was making and gave it back to the community. We be all right. And they take half the buildings that they use to praise God and gave it to mother who need God. We be all right. We be all right. Have you seen some of these goddamn churches lately? This one to take up the whole block in New York. It's homeless people out here. Why ain't God letting them stay here? Why these niggas got gold ceilings? Why God need gold ceilings to talk to me? Why do God need colored windows to talk to me? Why God can't come where I'm at, where he sent me? If God wanted to talk to me in a pretty spot like that, why the hell he sent me here then?
This hits pretty home to you, considering the fact that you served your mission there. What's your reaction to that Philippines Cebu temple?
Yeah, every time I see those types of videos, I have mad flashbacks to the Philippines because I was in places of extreme poverty. That's nice looking. What's on the screen right now, that's looking at the temple. But that right there, that was every day for me. Like, I lived in places, like I'd walk out my door and I was in places like that. I was meeting with members and meeting with investigators. And, sometimes they had dirt floors with roosters walking across. It was crazy. So it always blows my mind to see on one side of the street just this gaudy multi-million-dollar building. And then across from it is just abject poverty. It's sad. And that makes me think of people who say that the church's temple program is like the best program in the world for alleviating poverty. Well, take a look right there. Take a look right there. Is it alleviating poverty? No. It's not helping. It's not helping any of these people. And I hear it's the same thing down in South America too.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing, is that the prosperity gospel here seems to end about 10 feet outside of the temple. It doesn't seem to carry on past into the street. Those of us who follow this space pretty carefully, culture, we know that this is a Mormon temple. I mean, we recognize it, but a lot of other people, they don't. That's what we saw in the video clip. He didn't even know that this was a temple. All he knew was that it was a church. This is an average Joe's reaction to seeing this contrast of a temple that is probably $25 million temple. I don't know. I'm just guessing, that's approximation, mixed with people who are living in the Philippines. I mean, most of the people in the Philippines are living on like $3 a day on average, right?
Yeah, it's not a lot. Most of the population there is poor. It's either you're very wealthy or you've got next to nothing.
We're seeing the contrast here, and he brings up a good point. He says, why do we need all of these fancy places for God to talk to us? Why do we need this level of opulence? And you juxtapose it with this abject poverty, and that gets these type of reactions here. People want to say, well, this is just anti-Mormon lies. No, this is how people normally react who are really experiencing these type of things. And imagine if you were one of the people who's waking up every day, living right there and watching across the street and saying, what the objection that man said. He said, well, what about instead of pouring that into a building, why don't you pour it into the people who need it most? That's the biggest question. I mean, it breaks my heart to watch something like that.
Yeah, me too. And the church, it does do things for people in the Philippines, because there were programs that they had, they'd say like, we're having some medical doctors coming over that are going to do cleft palate surgery. So if you're out and about and you see people with cleft palates, tell them about it. And they would do stuff like that. And that should be commended. But looking at the temple and how gaudy and how rich it is, and then the other side of the street, like, that's just sad. And that's something that people see every single day over there.
And the worst part about it is that the church, because it's not externally audited, we can't confirm the charitable things that it's doing in any concrete manner. We have lots of anecdotes like what you were talking about there, of the church helping out with cleft palates, or the church donating wheelchairs, or, we even see news articles of the church donating millions of dollars. But because we don't have the external auditing, we don't have the X's and O's, and we can't give the church the due confirmation that it really deserves. It's not about being a critic of the church. It's just about making sure that the church brings forth claims of humanitarian giving, and we have to be able to confirm those things before we can reasonably and rationally accept them. I want to give the church props for when it does well, but I can't without external confirmation. That is the entire issue. And this isn't the only temple thing here. I saw this on ex-Mormon Reddit, which I don't actually go on that often, believe it or not. I only go on there about once a week. In the Youngstown, Ohio temple, the Pittsburgh Temple Open House Committee has informed us that only 63 of the shifts are filled and 1,280 people are still needed to fill up the shifts. There's new temples that are getting opened all the time, all over the place. The church has a backlog of almost 200 temples, and it's announced, I think, about 400 total temples total. Maybe it's around 350. Not only can we not get people to staff these things, we can't
staff the open houses.
We can't even get the open house. That's one night, or actually, it's not one night. It's usually a couple of nights. Multiple nights. We can't even get the level of staffing for the open houses here. The church is having an acute shortage of personnel to staff these temples. It's a major problem.
It's problematic, and that's not a good sign for your temple if you can't even get the number of people you need to staff an open house.
The crazy thing is, somebody was writing me in the comments section that the total staffing that's needed for a temple of the larger temples can be up to 2,000 people for all of the different shifts, all of the different things. I was astonished. I don't know what the exact number is, but it is a lot of people. And when you put these temples into communities in which there's only a couple thousand Latter-day Saints to begin with, who are in a commuting distance, who are active and temple going, it's a serious shortage. The church is spending millions and billions, tens of billions of dollars on temples, as we saw from the Cebu temple. It's incongruous because the Mormon shrinkage is confirmed. Then you can't even staff the open houses. And then when they're opened up, you can't staff it along the way. We're spending a lot of money and getting very little for the returns. That's an issue. Did you notice it's President Nelson's birthday coming up here, Cole?
Yeah, he's a big 100.
You might be out, but how would you like to be part of a new Guinness World Record? Whoa. Just sign Russell M. Nelson's birthday card as part of this weekend's mega church young single adults gathering. So they're trying to set a world record here for the most contributions to a greeting card and signing the largest birthday card ever for Russell Marion Nelson Sr. That's absolutely amazing. Check this out. Check out the second page here in conjunction with the Together in Christ, which is going on right now. The church has been doing these things frequently here, which is more of an evangelical approach to worship.
That has a very evangelical look to it, that flyer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a much more evangelical feel to it. What you see on the inside of these is these selfie submissions. They want people to be really involved. You're up, you've got the hands up, you're shouting, you're enjoying it. It's much more evangelical. Why I believe that's part of the young single adults for this year. But it's kind of weird to try to set a world record for President Nelson, isn't it? Or am I taking this too far?
No, I do think it's weird. And now we sound like the Democrats talking about Trump saying weird. That's our new talking point. It is kind of strange, but in a way, it's very Nelson. He wants the big numbers. Yeah. Maybe he's not like that, but to me, he seems very egotistical. And this may not even be his idea, but it's members like feeding into that. Like, let's get the most signatures for a birthday card ever. It's kind of par for the course with him in a way.
It's not only just signing the birthday card, but the church is buying ads for President Nelson's birthday as well. So help us break a world record and wish President Nelson a happy birthday. And this is a picture from an ad that you would get on YouTube here that is advertising the church. So the church really wants President Nelson to set that world record, the 100th birthday, and they're spending money to try to get people to sign up on the virtual birthday card. That's where your tithing dollars are going. I don't know exactly what money that is, but that's a very interesting way to spend church contributions.
I wonder if they're running that ad on our YouTube videos. I'm happy to get paid for that. That works.
Absolutely. This isn't the only President Nelson article this week. Russell M. Nelson becomes the first president to have the teachings of the president's material. You know how all of the church presidents have a manual that goes with them that's dedicated to them?
Yeah, after they die.
Yeah, after they die. Well, guess what? President Nelson is becoming the first president to have the teachings of the president's material released during his own lifetime. He can't wait until he dies. He's getting his book that's released for himself here before he's done. So here's all of these old Mormon prophets. You remember reading these, Culture?
Sure do. Yeah. When I was in, I remember reading the Brigham Young one, a couple of the other ones too.
Highly sanitized
Oh
versions
yeah,
of
yeah.
church
Yeah,
history.
they cut out portions. You get that dot dot dot, cut out a sentence, then start over.
These are the most correlated and whitewashed narratives you can possibly fathom. They won't even allow the presence of the church to have bad breath, and they won't acknowledge that some of them have lost their hair. I mean, that is the level of adulation of the dear leaders. And this is the most amazing thing. Of course, Dallin Oaks is going to say, hey, here's the testimony. This is a really good idea. I think this is absolutely awesome. Sorry, that picture got cut off. And Henry Eyring, yes, the presence of the church, that's also a good idea. These guys are in lockstep together, but it is awfully strange to have President Nelson have the teachings of the prophets when normally that is done after his death. He cannot wait. He is jumping the gun. He wants to get his information out there.
This feeds right into my my comment about his ego. Like nobody has done this before, but yet he is.
He's definitely the first on so many different things. He's just a real groundbreaker. He's willing to break the molds. Any conventions, he upended so many conventions, taking, visiting teaching, renamed it 3-Hour Church, chopped it off. The word Mormon itself, gone.
Yeah, got rid of it.
He doesn't really care. He doesn't care how other people necessarily perceive what he's doing. He has a vision and he's willing to execute that vision. That includes the temple building spree and many other factors as well. He doesn't care.
Yeah, going back to the med school, what do you think they're going to call it if you had to guess?
Well, it's funny. I saw a post that says that they're going to name all of the different parts of it after the different apostles who are alive, like the gene therapy portion of it will be named after Razban. And then, I don't know, the oncology would be named after Uchtdorf, and the different apostles all have a wing. It's the veneration of the dear leader. You know what I mean? Sticking with BYU here, look at this. This is unbelievable. This is a thunderbolt. This is cracking my testimony here, Coach. Caffeinated sodas now on sale at BYU Idaho. Are you kidding me?
Man,
At long last.
That's crazy. Mormons love their soda. And I can remember back in, the early 90s, there was kind of the, we don't really drink caffeine, even though it wasn't a doctrine or anything. And then we've kind of eased up on that to where we're cool with caffeinated sodas. And that's what you can get at Swig and all those places. BYU Idaho is like the place where they don't change. And they're serving caffeinated drinks now. That's kind of big for the church.
It is. It says in the article that they started serving caffeinated beverages at BYU in the 1950s. The change was brought about due to consumer preferences, a BYU spokesman said. But BYU Idaho has always been last to the game when it comes to trying to modernize and get out of that 1950s culture. It's absolutely unbelievable that it's 2024 and now we are finally selling not beer on campus, caffeinated beverages on campus. This is getting crazy out there. And I do have a couple of reactions that I want to share with you. BYU selling caffeinated drinks on campus. BYU, first time? Yeah. BYU Idaho just slowly following in BYU's shadow. They say there's nothing wrong with a good Diet Coke. Have you ever heard that before?
No, but I agree with that. There is nothing wrong with a good Diet Coke. It's delicious and
Absolutely.
very desirable.
Not everybody is so pumped up about this. Here's Aaron Brown saying, I'm feeling grateful that even as the Lord seemed to lower his standards to placate the less valiant spirits among us, he has assured me through personal revelation that I and my fellow not even once caffeinated beverages abstainers will receive enhanced blessings commensurate with our enhanced spirituality and our compliance with unwritten rules that are still very much in force. That's very apropos.
Shout out to Wendy Nelson, right? With that not even once.
Yes.
Not even once. She's talking about sex, right? And he's talking about caffeinated beverages.
I think that Not Even Once, which is a children's book by Wendy Nelson, is more geared towards lying and alcohol than sex. It's more
is it? Okay.
It's more for younger children in the ages of like 8 to 12. So I think that it's more
than not sex. No.
Yeah, being honest and things like that. The Not Even Once club of not even once having a cigarette or things like that. I think it's a little bit more mundane, although I have not read it. I'll just put it that way. I've been obsessed here, Coach, with the Olympics here. Are you watching the Olympics this week?
Heck yeah, man. They're on all day at our house.
That's great. And so, after the opening ceremonies controversy, Utah Values have promised at the 2034 Winter Olympics after Paris opening ceremony draws religious criticism. So Utah, which is going to host the 2034 Olympics, Mike Lee and a bunch of other senators have said that they will make sure that nothing like that happens in Utah. And they're going to make sure that Utah values will be enforced. What kind of values do you suppose that they're talking about there?
I would assume since they're all Mormon values. course.
I suspect Mormon values are definitely going to be enforced there, no doubt about it. And that brings me to a couple of these other memes here. Why are you getting so upset about the Olympics opening ceremony? Well, they mocked that Last Supper painting by Leonardo DiCaprio. This is fake outrage from sock puppets. That's what one of the comments says, and I think that is pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Couple other memes. A lot of these different organizations have done Last Supper, portrayals.
Yeah, it's not the first time. As most people know, it wasn't even the Last Supper.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nobody is boycotting Gordon Ramsay, and nobody really cares about The Last Man Standing or The Sopranos. I didn't hear a big outrage over that. Well, I don't know why things are so different now today. Why is it such a big issue now?
My guess is, one, it's the French, and two, it was a lot of drag queens that were doing it. The Christian right are not cool with that.
It probably was all based on the trans individuals. There's a lot of transphobia out there, and that's probably what did it for people. And as we know, it wasn't even the Last Supper to begin with. So let's get Dan McClellan. He's going to weigh in. This is his final response to the opening ceremony drama. When he weighs in on religious matters, I do enjoy it, although not necessarily when he gets in there in the non-religious aspect.
Dan McClellan, I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion, and for the last time, let's take a look at a video about the Olympics opening ceremony.
You Christians are so sensitive. That wasn't the Last Supper. That was actually the Feast of Dionysus, and the Olympic Committee has already released a public statement confirming it. Do your research.
Right. Okay. Despite it looking exactly like the Last Supper painting.
No, the festivity tableau from the Olympics opening ceremony did not look exactly like the Last Supper painting. In addition to the fact that there are a lot more than 12 other people at that table, none of their poses match the poses of the figures in Da Vinci's Last Supper, and Jesus doesn't even have a halo in the Last Supper. The similarities are limited to the depiction of multiple people on one side of a table surrounding a central figure. And that's just a common banquet motif that is found in a bunch of artwork from that time period. Da Vinci did not invent the banquet motif. So no, it didn't look exactly like the Last Supper painting.
How do you explain them worshiping a golden calf exactly like the Old Testament?
There was absolutely no worship of a golden calf taking place. What there was a temporary stage that was built around the works of art that have long been located in the Trocadero, including Paul Jouve's 1937 piece, Bull and Deer, which depicts the bust of a bull and then a calf leaping. It has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with any golden calf, and there is absolutely no sense whatsoever in which it facilitated any worship.
And them using the apocalyptic horseman exactly like it's depicted in the New Testament.
Oh my gosh, stop misinterpreting the facts. That wasn't the apocalyptic horse. That was actually a famous French symbol of Jeanne d'Arc coming in on her horse.
Certainly there was symbolism that could be associated with Joan of Arc, but the AD described this as a representation of the spirit of the Olympic Games, as well as Sequana, the goddess of the sin.
Okay, then I suppose you think it's another coincidence that the organizer of the Olympic opening ceremony was a Talmudic Satanist, a literal devil worshiper.
So in addition to the fact that Satanists are literally not devil worshippers, I can't find any data that indicate the existence of anything known as Talmudic Satanism. That seems to be something that was made up by Christians to support anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. I do see a lot of people suggesting the artistic director is Jewish, but that doesn't seem to be based on any evidence whatsoever apart from the asinine notion of physiognomy. This strikes me as a particularly anti-Semitic and monumentally stupid conspiracy theory.
Wait, then that means what is blatantly and obviously being presented before us is being denied.
No, it just means you let your persecution complex compromise your ability to think critically.
People lie.
And I would offer this video as evidence that people lie, but I don't think this creator is lying. I think they are just profoundly and willfully naive and misinformed.
But still, it's just a religion. You guys are taking this too seriously.
Maybe if it was just religion, you would have a point, but there were obvious adult themes present in an event that were watched by millions of families worldwide, meaning millions of children were exposed to perversion and obvious political leanings that they do not have the faculties nor the maturity to discern on their own.
There were absolutely no perversions present at the opening ceremonies. Not a single performer had as little clothing on as do male swimmers and female beach volleyball players at the Olympics. What there were an awful lot of people who feel like they are being persecuted every time they're forced against their will to be exposed to the fact that LGBTQ plus people are allowed to exist in public.
That was the final nail in the coffin. Stop exposing yourself around children.
No one exposed themselves around children. This sounds like a reference to the idiotic notion that one of the performers during the festivity tableau had a testicle exposed, and that simply did not happen. What happened was that one of the performers who was wearing dark tights had a hole develop on the inner right thigh of their tights, and that hole grew larger as the performance progressed, and people who do not think critically decided that was a testicle and immediately leapt at the opportunity to cry persecution.
Well, it seems like Dan summarized it pretty well there. He always does a pretty good job of shooting people down.
Dan he's such a smart guy. I don't know what it would be like to get shot down by him. I just like hang my head and walk away.
One of the other things that Dan weighs in on, a big controversy that happened, was that boxer in blue there who got severely hurt, I guess. Significant controversy there because the individual involved, some people were saying that it was a man boxing a woman. And this is what Dan's reply to that is as well. And I think his sentiment there is pretty good as well. Iman Khalif is a cis woman who has lost several fights to other cis women and lives in a country where it's illegal to transition. Some women have elevated testosterone levels. Calling her a biological man is bigoted and idiotic. Grow the hell up. What do you think, Coach, about this boxing match? It was pretty controversial out there.
Again, this is fake LGBTQ people, especially trans individuals, and are trying to turn this into something that it's not, saying that this woman boxer is a trans woman when she isn't. And they don't want to listen to logic. So I can kind of understand Dan when he says, like, shut the hell up.
You know, the Olympic Committee has certain tests that they do as far as testosterone levels and a couple of other things. Everybody seems to be on the same playing field, at least at this Olympics. I can't necessarily say that about the last Olympics, but I think that they've done a good job on this Olympics on keeping a level playing field. When I first saw this article, I was concerned because even people like Caitlyn Jenner have said that men who have gone through puberty, who are now trans men and who are in the women's side, that shouldn't be allowed. And remember, she is the decathlon, the athlete of the decade, an Olympian. If she's allowed to say that people who have transitioned, men who have transitioned to become women, shouldn't be in the women's side, then I think I can also say that that's my opinion without being called a bigot. But the case here, what Dan McClellan and others is pointing out, is that that's simply not the case here. There's a lot of factors that go in, and I'm comfortable with the way this all worked out, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
And also, but the persecution complex never ends here. Did you see this? LeBron James mocking Jesus.
No.
Look at this. This is the ascension here. When will the persecution end, Coach? You know, it just never ends. You know?
It never ends. Nope. They want to be like Jesus, but not in a good way.
And here's President Nelson here. You know, he was involved with the Olympics. I don't know if you caught that, but mental gymnastics gold medalist. What do you think?
It's well deserved. He's earned it. 99 years of mental gymnastics.
I'm not too sure about that. Now, did you see this Turkish guy here?
He's the best. Just look at him. He's just cool. He just wanted to finish this up and go have a smoke.
I am obsessed with this guy. And this is the difference here on the left. This is the Turkish guy who won the silver medal at the Olympics. And he just showed up with no gear, no nothing. He's got his hand in his pocket, doesn't even have his glasses, didn't even close an eye. That's what you get. On the left, you have the Relief Society instructor. And on the right, that's Elders Quorum. Is that pretty accurate?
That's pretty accurate.
I love this Turkish guy so much. I don't know why. It's really, really bizarre here. This 51-year-old divorced dad from Turkey showed up to the Olympics without specialized glasses or ear protections, hands in his pockets like he was casually shooting soda cans in his backyard with an airsoft gun, and he won the silver medal.
It's amazing. It's a great story.
Absolutely incredible. Look at this. I got a couple of other memes here. That Turkish guy at the Olympics, there he is. You know, He's making it happen. I got a couple of Mormon-related memes. This is LD Zion, and on the right is Desnat. Is that accurate too?
Oh, no, I don't like Desnat, and I like the Turkey guy, so I can't get down with that one.
No, that he's not Desnat?
No,
okay.
He's not. He's cool.
Okay.
The left is more Desnat than the right.
Then how about this? On the left, once you've read the complete works of Hugh Nibley, it becomes obvious that there are clear records of historical support for the Book of Mormon, and most of the arguments against are based on incomplete or faulty evidence. Or on the right, the book's true because God told me.
I was
I
the
don't-
guy on the right during my faithful days. I didn't read Nibley. Maybe that was my problem.
I tried to read Nibley. He's practically incomprehensible. I couldn't understand him. Tried to listen to a lot of his stuff, and I guess I just wasn't smart enough for it. That's for sure. But that does bring us to our Mormon News Roundup joke of the week, and it's Olympics related here. And what is the poll this time, Coach?
What are the top 10 Mormon-themed Olympic events that should have been included in the Paris Olympics?
Absolutely. We release new episodes of the Mormon News Roundup every Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you come on over to the live chat at that time, you can interact with your humble hosts. And what's your choice number one here, Coach?
Fastest testimony bearing. That would be a good one.
Because you have to say, I know the church is true. I know the prophet. I know Joseph Smith.
I know Joseph Smith was, Love my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters.
It's going to be pretty fast, though. That could be an Olympic event. Not too bad. Or how about number two?
Scripture chase relay. This would be a good one. We did a lot of this in seminary when I was in high school.
Instead of handing off the baton, you hand off the scriptures there, looking up the scriptures. I think some seminary students could do pretty well in that. What do you think?
For sure.
How about number three?
Deacons fast offering collection race. Do they still send out the deacons to collect fast offerings?
You can never let a couple of dollars go uncollected.
Yeah,
That's
stupid question. Stupid question.
That's going to be the last thing that's ever canceled. That's for sure. How about number four?
Home teaching marathon.
Actually, I guess we have to call it a ministering marathon now.
Okay. Ministering marathon. There we go.
All I can say is that every home teaching assignment that I ever had felt like a marathon, even if it was just one family. You know what I mean?
It was so tedious. I hated home teaching.
How about number five?
Youth Temple Trip Endurance Challenge.
Yeah, very nice. It's going to be harder and harder for these youth to go to these temples. They're going to have to wait around because they're not being staffed, and it could be a good challenge. Or how about number six?
Mormon Pioneer Trek Reenactment. That's a good one.
Yeah, 1,300 miles. That could be a good event. How about number seven?
Missionary Bike Obstacle Course. Excellent. Did you ride bikes on your mission?
Yeah, I did. For some of the time, maybe a third of the time I rode a bike.
Let's go. I never did. We had to walk or use public transportation. People would have stolen our bikes.
Oh.
Poverty and all.
Yeah, we kept our bikes in our apartment every single time. We never left them out.
Smart.
Or how about number eight?
Church ball. Yes.
Way different than the Olympics basketball that we've seen there. What's the difference between church ball and the 5-on-5 basketball that we see in the Olympics?
I don't know. There's just something about 5 white guys taking on another 5 white guys that don't really know how to play basketball. Tempers flare. I almost got in a fight one time playing church basketball in the cultural hall.
Hey, cultural hall. Yeah, that's where it comes from.
The name of the channel.
Yeah. How about number 9?
Chapel cleaning speed run. Now that vacuum, if I got to use that, I would think about going and cleaning the local chapel.
That is absolutely peak form right there. It's called a Pacer 30, so he looks pretty intense as well.
Yeah, that was great.
How about number 10?
There you go. Mormon ring toss.
Yeah, you use a CTR ring.
CTR ring toss.
Yeah, instead of that, that could be a good event for sure. And for those of you out in the live chat, if you could cast your votes at this time, we'd be very grateful for this. This is the top 10 Mormon-themed events that should have been included in the Paris Olympics. The fact that they weren't is really evidence that there's a lot of bias against the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's definitely a persecution, but we're going to right the ship here, Coach. What do you want to vote for? If you'd be the first person to take our poll, we'd be very grateful for that.
Hands down, man. I'm playing church ball with Jimmer Fredette.
Yeah, you've been watching the 3-on-3 with Jimmer?
Yeah, I saw Jimmer getting worked on when he got an injury. That was something to see.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, you didn't see that? Yeah, there's a video of him where he's basically like sitting down, and then a trainer comes over and is like rubbing his crotch really hard.
I didn't see that.
She was working on him. Yeah.
Well,
it's quite an injury.
I'm sure everything's on the up and up, considering that it's Jimmer for that.
It's gotta be.
If you can't trust Jimmer, you can't trust anybody. And that does take us to our Mormon News Roundup joke of the week here. And what's happening with the Diamondbacks announcer here, Culch?
Oh, this is amazing. So earlier this week at the Diamondbacks game, the Diamondbacks were getting their butts kicked. And they were coming back from a commercial break, and the camera panned to these kids who were out in left field by the bullpen, and they were going crazy. And then there was a kid on the right who's got a unique shirt there you can see that says, I'm Mormon, but the broadcaster has a bit of a gaffe reading the shirt, and hilarity ensues.
Yeah, you put a video together on that, right?
I did.
The guy on the right. I can't. I'm a moron.
Metro Phoenix, home to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and about 300,000 Mormons. On July 29th, the Diamondbacks took on the Washington Nationals at Chase Field, and they were getting their ass kicked 6-0. But sometimes the stars align and a perfect moment is born. That's what's about to happen. As the game returned from a commercial break, the camera panned to a bunch of teens yucking it up in the bullpen. That's when, depending on your view, commentator Steve Berthume either won the World Series of funny comments or made the biggest gaffe of his career.
The guy on the right. I can't. I'm a moron. There it is on tape and everything.
And in another fortuitous stroke of luck, this all happened on Mormon night at the ballpark. The local newspaper picked up the story. It was LDS night at the Arizona Diamondbacks game, and it produced a hilarious moment on the D-backs broadcast. One of the young fans had a t-shirt that said, "I can't, I'm Mormon," a nickname given to members of the Latter-day Saints Church.
But a nickname may offend.
But D-backs announcer Steve Berthume appeared to hilariously misread the shirt during the break, saying, "I found my new favorite t-shirt ever, the guy on the right. I can't, I'm a moron." The incident also made a splash on social media. And the I'm a Moron kid's mom even got in on the action. A couple cool Mormons even commented. But of course, this Mormon had to be a Debbie Downer. Look, I don't know if there's a God, but if there is, they have one hell of a sense of humor.
I can't. I'm a moron. I can't. I'm a moron. I can't. I'm a moron.
I really like how you put President Nelson in there with the nickname may offend. That was perfect editing there.
Yeah, a nickname may offend.
Yeah, it definitely did. This goes to the fact that this is Arizona here. This isn't like we're up in Connecticut or something. That's supposed to be a Mormon stronghold here.
I lived in Arizona most of my life. I went to school at Arizona State. I've been in Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, Tempe. It's a Mormon Mecca out there. So for this to happen and for it to happen on LDS night, chef's kiss. Perfect.
I mean, come on, man. I know that these baseball announcers are not up on all of the religions and everything, but you got to at least study the night of whatever it is that you have. I mean, come on, man. You got to do better than that. You got to do better. But hey, I appreciate you coming on. What projects are you working on? How can people get in touch with you, Coach? What do you got going on your channel over there?
You know, I just put out a video that I called Anti-Mormon Stories. That was a hate watch episode I did about this guy that was given a lot of SHIT to Mormon stories. So I just kind of critiqued his video and threw in some stuff. That one's doing pretty good. I just put out that Mormon kid at the D-backs game one. And then I've got some stuff coming up for this Fairview Temple meeting that's coming up on Tuesday. I'm going to do a hate watch of Ward Radio, an episode that they did about the steeple controversy. And then I'm going to put out a new parody song that's about the steeple.
Man, you sure have a lot of things going on. Now, as far as things that I have going on, we're going to be doing the Mormon movie reviews tomorrow night, which is for a very special episode here. This is the old church film strip, very much alive in 1976. This thumbnail is a little fuzzy, but it won't be when it goes live on YouTube. But this is the Mormon church's anti-propaganda, anti-abortion film, the only one that they ever made. And we should be reviewing it, hopefully, with Maven, the queen of the Mormon reproductive rights. This is going to be very interesting tomorrow night. Hour-long review plus a live stream. This is going to be big here, Colch.
That'll be good, man. I'll be tuning in. I like to see Maven and see what she has to say.
I'm hoping that we're going to get some haters out there. I want to get somebody who's willing to push back on Maven. She's ready to take on the world, and if she can't do it, then maybe I can. That's a tall order. I also hope to have a couple of episodes maybe of the Mormon Talk Mormonism show that I've got going too, with some wild calls. That's what I'm hoping for. And also one last thing, and I'm going to let the cat slightly out of the bag here. I put together this video here, which is my long-awaited reaction to Cardin Ellis on Ward Radio. This is going to be an incredible video where I go into a deep dive into Cardin Ellis, an hour and 10 minutes, and Nick Sales. And I'm finally going to give them a piece of my mind, Colts. What do you think?
I've had a sneak peek of that, and it is well worth the watch. So when that comes out, give it a watch, everybody.
This is going to be absolutely epic. I've been working on this for a long time. I have been waiting for this review for 6 months. I have been a coward up until this point, but my cowardice, I have put it off, and it is time to conquer my shadows. I want to thank you so much, Coach, for coming on the Mormon News Roundup. And for those of you out there, would you please leave a notification? Please subscribe. Please leave a like. And if you can donate to our Patreon sites, we'd be very grateful for that. Always think celestial, and remember,
no unhallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.
Shit, I messed it up.